All citizens are instructed to return to their residence and shelter in place until further notice. Turn to your emergency broadcast station on your television, radio, or internet device to receive further instruction. I repeat, you are currently under a shelter-in-place order. Return to your home if able or seek shelter immediately. Lodges of any kind are instructed not to turn away anyone seeking shelter. Individuals who are found to be in violation of the shelter-in-place order could face fines or jail. This has been an instruction from your Civil Defense Authority. Further instruction will follow this message on your emergency broadcast networks. Thank you. This message will repeat.
Originally, we did have a small team of reporters that first came in breaking the story, and investigators who supported what we were trying to obtain. But now that we're ahead, and it appears that we're going to start pulling ahead of everything that's coming in and all the information, and there is a ton of it. There's a great deal of stuff that continues to come in, or pour in, I should say, as we discuss this. So if you're stuck at home, if you're in some sort of shelter right now, we want you to keep your ears peeled to our reporting. We want to make sure that you're ahead of everything that's going on. You need to get the full updates on what most are calling simply a life-changing situation. This is a life-changing event. This is something that will stay with us for many years after the smoke has cleared, and it's very concerning. And the idea of the life-threatening part of this, and a lot of questions that still remain open on what's going on. So let's just get into what we have here. The reports of major infected activity in city centers at this time, but the reports from the Secretary of Health is that these numbers are still considered low, and they believe that this illness can be contained. They believe that it will happen with local police and National Guard support, as well as state support that will be coming in. This all on the heels of a lot of different things that are coming in, and some of these things are counter to the amount of people that are being seen, as we like to report it, as being seen on the street. There's a difference between understanding where people are on the street and people who are stuck in buildings or structures, or how those numbers are going to play into this as we move forward. And that's really a question that we haven't uncovered yet. While in rural towns and city centers, areas more spread out are concerned about infected in more isolated places and are sending local sheriffs. They're still employing local militias to perform these wellness checks, as well as individuals who are sworn in on a short-term basis. And the federal government has made it clear that the use of militia and sworn-in individuals is not to be performed on these, what they're calling sensitive duties. The idea that there are potentials to injure people because they are not well trained enough to know the difference, or could be put in situations where they're not mentally capable of dealing with it. A lot of the stuff that people are encountering right now are psychologically draining and can cause reactions. Fear, for one, is a huge driver of many of the activities that we see, and hysteria, as we know, can be something that can be just as deadly as in the illness itself. So the federal government has now recommended a travel ban, even where ones may not exist. Military personnel have been posted at every border and airport entrance in many countries. We've had unconfirmed slayings in multiple Middle East ports, potentially targeting certain groups, religious and ethnic, claiming they are harboring this illness. Again, that's not confirmed, but we are getting multiple reports on it, so we'd like to push it over to you. 2 more shootings were reported in China, where the 2 individuals were of Canadian descent who were gunned down with the claim of carrying the infection. And now the reasons we're telling you this is simply because travel at this time may be ill-advised. It may be something that borders are becoming more and more important to people in protecting the civilian population is for some well more important than the rights of the people who are traveling. So we want you to know that. And this is on top of shootings for multiple infected individuals that had crossed the Mexican border into the U.S. It was confirmed that those individuals were infected. Some of them had escaped and made it into the U.S. Some individuals said that they had tracked down the majority, but were not fully aware if they had encountered all the individuals that had escaped that area. The cleanup had resolved and the border was open, but again, there are concerns about individuals who are coming in, traveling in and out, and it has made this travel difficult, if in some cases impossible. So yeah, take any sort of traveling under advisement. There may be a time right now where the best thing to do is to disdain from anything that may be life-threatening. So there is currently what could be considered a stand-up strike by many truck drivers who originally no longer wanted to travel to certain cities to supply goods, but have now expanded that to almost every section of the eastern seaboard. No more supplies are headed into New York, New Jersey, or Boston. Remember, these are mostly specific to clustered cities, so there are certain areas that many are still delivering to less populated areas. The concern is that if we see this infection rise or spread, as many scientists are calling for, we may face a larger scale blocking, if not losing any sort of shipping whatsoever. And in some areas, smaller businesses are taking this action upon themselves to travel to pick up goods, and other designated online shipping apps are attempting to convey to private truckers to pick up supplies or get additional income. So someone with a truck, or maybe a box truck, or access to any sort of U-Hauls or anything that is, rentable delivery, can take up these apps and begin to deliver into areas even if they are considered dangerous. And we're already seeing similar systems for food delivery in popular areas being implemented, so those who are stuck inside are able to order from different areas, from restaurants, and get food, or from grocery stores. But how long that's going to last is going to be up in the air. After a buying spree, multiple survival companies are also working on a solar generator system that could replace the need for loud generators in shelters. This just became a big thing recently that was selling so much that they couldn't keep them in stock. These systems are used in shelter programs, and they were made more popular from government contracts and now being produced for civilian use. These systems are smaller and can power devices such as refrigerators and radio systems, and they are offering delivery directly to consumers as well, which can make a lot of convenience. These units are mobile and self-contained, so they may be perfect for their situation as lockdowns continue until we can get ahead of the situation. One of the problems we did hear from a lot of people was using any sort of system in areas where power outages were important. Did draw the attention of some of the infected individuals, and something that is it's changing the way we look at this system in a very big way. So that's something that you want to be made aware of, and we want to make sure that you know about it. The real question right now is, how long can stores and supplies stay open? Supply lines in most of the Northeast and southern states have come to a crawl. Florida, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont have already reported slowdown in supplies. Certain areas of Pennsylvania and Georgia have been without supplies for weeks now, forcing some areas to simply close up shop and not return. Looting in Michigan and Illinois have made these situations a little bit more dire, and parts of New York have also closed down stores permanently. There's just no way to replace the supplies once they're gone. So some of these people who didn't know how to stand out or survive the situation simply closed up their shops just to make life easier. In some places where there were concerns of safety to life, as well as those of their patrons, and those were the decisions that they were making. So even if supplies delivery opportunities are reconstructed, there may be a point where there's no place to deliver to them. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. Civil defense has been in full swing delivering to the worst affected areas. They are also delivering supplies to places like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia at first, but have expanded and are asking for donations so that they can continue this effort as they supply to other areas. And the first question for me is I have to ask them, do they understand what's happening right now? I don't understand how people are going to be donating to a situation, especially with food and supplies, when for the most part a lot of people are without supplies. So that's going to be a big question. Is that here civil defense is now saying that they're running out of supplies, and how do we continue when we don't have supplies to give them? It really is something. It's not a pocket effect. This is something that's happening. And I'm going to use the word globally because it is indeed a pandemic. So at the same time, civil defense shelters have requested increased security as the situation rises and these sectors are inundated by the illness. This has once again brought the question of euthanasia of those infected and started a stark debate. In one poll, a crushing majority, up to 90%, supported euthanization, yet politicians have refused to endorse this activity. The biggest concern was the possibility of killing innocent people. We discussed that earlier. People are not well trained enough to understand, especially at distance, if they're dealing with a person who's simply sick or someone who is actually infected. And one opponent had stated the real concern was that they didn't want to get sued. And I have to say that I tend to think that both are very valid points. So I can see the pushback. But again, there's already a point now where the idea of storing those who are infected has become both a drain and in some cases an impossible drain. We actually had heard of National Guard taking action upon themselves, and I don't want this to be something that is unfeeling. I want to understand that these people do have families, they do have situations, but it's come to the point now where many people won't even discuss what we're discussing right now because of the implications. So I can understand the sensitivity of the topic, but the topic has to be addressed and there has to be some sort of decision made as early as possible, because the numbers are not decreasing, they're increasing, and the more people that we allow back into the public sector to potentially harm, kill, or expose others to this deadly illness, it's a situation that just can't be overlooked. Multiple polls on social media have warned about using high traffic areas as shelters. Infected individuals have been seen amassing in activity areas. We've discussed this before as well. Campgrounds, hospitals, churches were most described as to be as avoided and warranted exactly why shelter systems such as National Guard and Civil Defense were so important. So we have two crisscrossing ideas there that says that there's a shelter system out there that's in place, but these shelter systems are actually harboring the sick and infected. So this is a crossroads that we're here. We have to figure out exactly how that's going to come into play, because the places that we normally would, I'm going to use the word run to, are no longer available for us to escape to, or in some cases may actually be more dangerous than, say, staying at home. And this becomes a conundrum of supply line and other things that are crisscrossing that, I guess the best way I need to say this is we need to either learn the situation from a government standpoint or from a civil one, but either way, it has to be resolved. So in case you haven't been paying attention, it's a full lockdown in the U.S. has been called due to a disease that warps the minds of those that it infects. The true nature of this illness is unknown, but the effects of mental disposition of those that fall to it, turning them into what some have described as mindless creatures that attack anyone that come near. In their normal state, they look pallid and cold, some almost motionless as they stand like statues that appear to sway in the wind, some staring off into space while others lumber from place to place. Their clothes and appearance are unusually worn and dirty, but it's possible that newly infected may look no different than anyone else. The illness begins with a high fever, muscle aches, and moves into numbness, to the extremities, lethargy, and eventually what is being called turning, wherein the individual loses all reason and understanding, attacking anyone around them. This is after a time of unconsciousness to which the person no longer responds to any input, to which when they do return from that state, they are considered deadly. I would say that they would be considered deadly at any point during that process if you were to contract the illness and it do the same to you. What we have been lax on describing to many, but is well known to those who have been paying attention or affected by it, is these individuals seem to want to eat those that they attack. In a gruesome description, they attempt to devour others. It becomes clear that the bites of these individuals could be the primary method of spread at this time, and although where it started and how any secondary form of transmission are still being assessed at this time. It's being called Armageddon by religious and spiritual leaders, some who claim that this was foretold in Scripture, while some say it's a punishment for the decadence of mankind. As one pastor put it, when hell is full, the dead will walk the earth. While the CDC and Board of Health deny this bombastic claim, it may be the best description we have, as some scientists are baffled by what they are seeing. The government has limited testing to the most secure facilities, where they say testing on actual infected individuals has begun, and they also say that they have made progress. What that progress is, or if it will lead to a vaccine or a cure, is unknown. At this time, much of the eastern states have seen activity. California has seen reports, but health officials there say they have the situation well in hand. Other countries, such as the UK, have seen a stark rise in infected, as well as France's western region. Information from Russia and China are spotty at best, but it's clear that camps have been set up in the Wuhan region associated with the illness. Korea and Japan are both suffering from attacks that have shut down their public transportation networks entirely. What has been shocking is the perceived exodus from major city centers has not happened as was expected. The roadways for most part remain fairly clear. Original traffic jams on the most traveled roadways were reported, but they quickly cleared accidents and continued usages. But now some highways are eerily quiet. When some were questioned why they were not moving from their area, they simply answered, "Where would we go?" Keep tuned into this radio station at this time to make sure that you continue to keep updated on what's going on in the world right now. We are well full swing and full hands on deck at this time to make sure that we can get this information out to you. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to have a, I believe, emergency broadcast here, and then we're going to return to our regularly scheduled program.
All citizens are instructed to return to their residence and shelter in place until further notice. Turn to your emergency broadcast station on your television, radio, or internet device to receive further instruction. I repeat, you are currently under a shelter-in-place order. Return to your home if able, or seek shelter immediately. Lodges of any kind are instructed not to turn away anyone seeking shelter. Individuals who are found to be in violation of the shelter-in-place order could face fines or jail. This has been an instruction from your Civil Defense Authority. Further instruction will follow this message on your emergency broadcast networks. Thank you. This message will repeat.